Stanich.
Welcome everybody. I'm going to invite everybody that's in the cheap seats right now to come up and kind of get closer. This is the paid seating, but just for you guys, we're opening it up. So come on this way because the exhibit can't be viewed real well from over there. So if you have the opportunity while I'm flapping my gums about a bunch of stuff that matters a lot to me, come over this way. We'd love to have you. Thanks, Henry, very much. The Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame was founded in 1986, and our mission is to preserve history and educate our Wisconsin neighbors about all the things that happen here in the state with regards to aviation. The nice thing about that is we don't tell stories about airplanes, we don't tell stories about airfields, we tell stories about the people, and that's exactly what we get to do here today. So thank you for being here. We have a lot of thank yous. This has been a big project. It's actually started off by a gentleman named Scott Green. Scott, I saw Scott somewhere. Oh, he's behind the camera right there. There's Scott. We were donated this wonderful collection by the Couch family, and it was Scott that kind of approached Dan Silvers, who's over there in the hat there, and said, hey, do you realize that we have all these images, all these negatives with just incredible clarity? We should really do something about it. And then they approached the board and kind of got this thing going. So my first thanks, besides to the Couch Museum and the board of directors for having us here, is to our Wisconsin Aviation Board of Directors. So if you're on the board, could you raise your hand, please? Right there, there's wonderful people. Thank you very much. We also have Rose Dorson right here, who is our editor of Forward in Flight and our membership director. Thank you, Rose. And this wonderful magazine. Just by a show of hand, actually, if you've never seen this magazine, don't be ashamed. If you could raise your hand if you don't have a copy of this or have never seen this magazine, don't be ashamed. You can raise your hand. You should be ashamed of yourselves. This is one of the finest aviation publications I ever produced, and thanks to Rose and John for putting so much dedication into it. And if I could get the Kohn committee to come up here, that includes this guy, Dan, if you could come up, John, I appreciate it, Rose, also Lynn, thank you. What ended up happening is we had said, well, we should do something with this, and we started talking to the Couch Museum. And we said, hey, what if we put a display up in your museum? Would you like that? They said, great. And we said, okay, great. So we're going to put together maybe some pictures or something. And then we got on a call and went, you know what would be really cool? And then over the next few weeks, it came into this design. So I'm going to move you guys up front because I have a little thank you for you. If you can move around the front of Leo's desk, thank you. If you go there. This stuff always goes much better when I talk about it the first time. All right, so what I did here is they put an incredible amount of work. And this is a piece of the material that was used to build this. So it is, there we go. So I'll tell you the pieces in just a second here. The string on there is what you'll see in the dark room. The wood represents all the wood that's behind us right now. And Bernard's is very, very happy that Couch likes to do this, by the way. And then the fun part is the little piece of copper there from the copper tubing that we had some fun with. All these pieces together make something, but individually they don't matter a whole lot. All these people individually do a lot, but together we were able to accomplish something great. So thank you guys for your work and individualism putting this all together. Thank you very much. And so now we're getting to the point where we're going to unveil this wonderful thing. So we'll do an unveiling, and then we have a final toast and a final thank you. But before we do that, I'm going to get to two very special and important people that have worked with us very hard on this. I'd like to introduce Leo's children, Mary Ellen Kohn and Bill Kohn. Mary Ellen, would you like to come up and say a few words?
Good afternoon, everyone. Mary Ellen Kohn, I'm Leo's daughter, and I'm going to leave anything related to aviation to my brother in his remarks because I'm just the little girl that grew up loving her daddy. My dad, as a person, he was first thing in my life my hero, and I used to call him my boyfriend. You'll see looking man, and I would sit on his lap and run my hands over his wavy hair. Loved my daddy, and he loved us back. The biggest, the most important thing to him was his family, his home, just making a good life for us all. He loved my mother, he loved my brother and I so much. And one of the biggest things I remember is all of the family vacations. We would go in the car, driving all over the country, always educational. It meant so much to him that we learned things. And always airplanes were involved, and Bill might add some more about that. But it started both of us on a life full of travel, flying, driving, whatever, all because of my dad. He was just so wonderful that way. He was, I would say, that really a guy who had 35,000 negatives of airplanes. You would think complicated. He was a simple man, really. In so many ways, he was one of his quotes that we like to remember in the family is he would say, "Nothing like a good meal." And for him, a good meal was, we don't need herbs and spices, just salt and pepper. Gotta have a good cup of coffee, and you'll see later the toast, I think, is gonna be done with old fashions, the Wisconsin treat. He was that way. Also, the big thing about him is that he was, as they put in the articles, very detail-oriented, very meticulous, and a perfectionist. And we grew up with that too, and I think you see it in both of us today, that when we do our work or whatever it is we do it right, because Dad said. I remember one time in college when I said, I had 4 classes this semester, I got a B in this and a C in this and whatever, and my dad said, I'd be kicking myself if a B was my lowest grade. And so it was like, no, you have to do it right. But that was a good lesson to learn, and he shared that with us all the time. So, I guess that's about it. That's what I want to say about my dad. He was a wonderful man, a wonderful human being, and of course, what he did to his legacy for aviation photography it appears to be unmatched. Mm-hmm. Bill?
Can you hear me if I don't use this thing? I figured so. I'm Leo's son, Bill. I'm gonna bring up the technology here so that I don't forget to say something, and at the same time, we'll try to keep this down to the point where we can enjoy ourselves. I don't want to keep you here all afternoon. Because obviously when you get a chance to talk about your father, and at least for most of us, it's an opportunity that can go on and on. But before we get into that too much, I want to thank the Hall of Fame, the Kelch Museum, all the effort that went into this. I was overwhelmed when they came to me and started saying, we didn't know what was in this. Do you know what you've got here? And so when this project began, a weight started to lift off my shoulders. Leo's been gone for a little more than 10 years. And during that 10 years, I always wanted to make sure that one thing I did right was take care of this. Those were his final comments to me. Make sure it goes on. Make sure it doesn't get lost. And thanks to the Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame, Kelch Museum, and a lot of people, other people in this room who have donated and participated in this, that legacy will live on. And that, for me, my burden is lifted. The collection grew beyond just his work. Before he passed, his brother Greg passed on. And his brother Greg was the same way, an aviation person. If you read the article in the magazine or what have you, you'll find out, the two of them, Greg bought a war surplus glider, and the two of them put the engine back in it, and that was one of the planes that Leo logged a few hours. That passion for aviation. The old family albums have dozens of pictures of them with model airplanes when they were just kids, and it became real airplanes. And for both of them, it grew into this kind of thing. that became somewhat all-encompassing, but at the same time, you know, really an important part for me. I never learned how to fly, but my first flight was with him in a, I want to say it was a Piper Super Cub back in the maybe the very early 60s or late 50s. And, you know, those are the kind of memories that'll stick with me forever. And the fact that this exhibit is here means that a lot of his work will be around forever as well. And so with that, you know, I just can't put into words what this means to my sister, to me, my children, the fact that this is going to be here for many years to come, and generations that I'll never see will see some of these images. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Kurt. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for your assistance in doing this. And the fun part is they have not seen this yet. So it's a grand unveiling for everybody. If I could have Pat and John get ready, we're about to open this up. So maybe we'll do a countdown from 3 and then we'll start taking it across. So here's just 1 second.
All right, are you ready?
3, 2, 1.
Wow. So what I'm trying to do is, thanks to the family, recreated his desk that he worked at and the basement where he worked, including his dark room. So at this point, we're going to ask our friends to bring around the old fashions, which just happen to be Leo's favorite drink. This is brewed by a Wisconsin company. I don't know if anybody heard of them. They're called Kugels. Yes, a little known brewery, I guess, out to the west. So if you'd like to take one of those, feel free to pop it open. Last thing we have to do is really say a toast to him, and then we are on our way. So maybe if some of the board members can help hand some of those out, that'd be fantastic.
Sure.